Okay, hello everybody. Another kind of impromptu stream. Um, Something's wrong with my board here. Not wrong is probably not the right word, but I'm just gonna go to picture in picture, old school picture in picture. I will be down there because I have a way to. If you notice, I've been doing a little bit more fanciful picture in picture, but something's gone awry, and I don't have time to figure it out. I don't have time to figure it out. I didn't have anything in the community spotlight to share. So I thought I would just continue working we were doing yesterday and seeing how that works. So let's just do that. Let us do that. Let me zoom out here on. You could see. So I've done some things. This is our example that we worked on yesterday. I just throw those in there thinking yesterday, but I actually, boy, did I like whistle a little bit. But so one of the to-do list. If I had a to-do list, if I was smart enough to make a to-do list, I need to do, I guess, wandering creatures, whatever you want to call them. That's what these are for. But I also need to fill this in. So I came back and I added these in, and I also changed this a little bit. So the idea here would be that the whatever hex you're in would be in the center one. And then you could have, if you wanted to put the symbol or some kind of note for what's surrounding it. So that way you, on a particular hex, you've got some kind of reference to the surrounding hexes, which I find helpful. And I'm not trying to suggest how you do it. So if you want to put the symbols in there, you want to write something, you want to put, if you had like a location, if you were using some kind of grid or I don't know, maybe 2-axis notation, you could write those in there, whatever you want. But you could throw those in there so that wherever you are, you sort of get a sense of what's on the outside, and it makes it, and you get the nice kind of stylized flower. Now here are the parts that are sort of my thing, which is HD, right? For this, I am I'm using hex dice, but it's really HD for terrain. And then you can also break it out into some different categories, which I have here. Turbidity is basically how difficult is it to make observations and navigate. Hey, Ian. Ruggedness, how difficult is it to actually traverse, move through. Activity, how often are you going to run into stuff? Hey, here's an homebrew. Peril, for a kind of danger level, you can use in multiple different ways. And then scarcity, you're looking for food, water, other kind of supply issues. Scarcity would go in there. So you can have just a generic value, much like monsters have hit dice, which sometimes are better fits than others, depending, right? Sometimes, this spider's only not even 1 hit die, but it's got poison that can kill you, kind of thing. But it is a fairly decent generic value. Obviously, the more hit HD they have, the tougher you're saying it is. And then these are kind of like would be similar to attributes for people. So if you might have your level or hit dice and say, I'm a 6th level elf. Okay, great. But then you want to know what their strength, dex, whatever that would be. These over here. So I've just added in stuff for that. So I wanted to get that in there. And with this, we went through over the last few streams. But just to go through, if you missed those streams, you're in here now. I'll put some kind of header up here. I'm not sure what I will call it yet, but this is for your subhex features. I don't love subhex feature as a term. Maybe just hex contents, what's in your hex. Maybe even just say like what's going on in here. Signs are your super obvious things that are going to pop out to you when you come in there. No particular actions are needed. You are going to observe them in some way, whether you want to or not. You're going to do it. Discoveries are things that you are taking at least a singular action to try to figure out. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to gate it behind a roll, but it's gated to an action. And here in our example, the woods are full of giant spider webs. If you engage with those spider webs, let's say trying to trace where they're coming from, that might lead you to the game trail, or it might lead you to the giant spider nest. Hence discoveries. Now, secrets take it one step further. Secrets are things that you would think needs multiple actions to solve. Again, it doesn't have to necessarily be gated by rolls, but just you need multiple actions. So just finding the giant spider nest, or finding the game trail, or finding these things, these discoveries, each one of these kind of might take a particular action. Usually a secret, we would say it takes at least 2 actions, potentially more, depending on the nature of the secret. What the secret thing could be a location. In this case, we've got Dol Guldur, the necromancer's tower that you're doing, so that would be a location. But in another example I looked at on a couple of streams ago, the location, the secret, was actually something inside one of these discoveries. There was a cave that was a discovery, and inside that cave was a secret area. But that secret area you needed things from 2 locations. You needed to find that cave, because that's where it is, but you also needed a magic sword, or not even a magic sword, a sword from this ruined castle, which was another location. If you took the sword to the cave, that would help you unlock the secret area. It's meant to be flexible. So you can really, and ultimately it's really for you to use however you see fit to get the things done that you see fit. But essentially, these are kind of like, if you're maybe points of interest, or like what to do, like what is there to do in this hex? We're visiting this hex as a party. What is there to do? And then for denizens, creatures, whatever you want to call it, I'm splitting them up into basically in terms of rarity, right? So from common, frequent, uncommon to rare. And I like that. You can obviously use something else if you want. I tend to like that because that's kind of how I think of things. And I would put, your sort of your everyday mundane birds and beasts would be in common. Maybe you'd put the herbivore types and maybe vegetation if you wanted to use your flora, as well as kind of herbivore or plant eating. You're sort of those kinds, and maybe frequent might be your predators. Or maybe some of the predators, maybe your apex predator will be uncommon, and probably uncommon and rare is where you're going to start finding the stranger things, unless the hex is just super strange, in which case you could fill it in, right? It's kind of, to me, it's just looking at it and saying, what am I most likely to run into? What I might run into a little bit less often? What's maybe a little bit less often than that? And then, like, what's the stuff that kind of once in a blue moon, or maybe a blood red moon, are you going to run into? And I think I like that a little bit better than I like doing it on the categories. I think it cuts down on a little bit of rolling. I mean, if you're automating everything, then it really doesn't matter, right? And then, but for just rolling on a table, having to roll, you roll for the what? So like, BX, you would roll. Okay, I'm in the planes. I'm gonna roll planes. I roll flyer. Then I roll, roll on the flyer table. Those are cool, but I think it's you have to fill out a lot. So if I was going to make some planes and I want to act differently, I have to edit like 8 different tables to get all that stuff out, because I got to edit the basic table that tells me, that kind of gives me the percentage chance of getting into flyers or whatever. Then I got to edit the flyers table and do a whole flyers table. So you have to do that for everything. And I don't know that as I like to say, the juice is worth the squeeze on that. Whereas if I could just say, and I don't, and granted, that gives me a wide, you get a huge variety of creatures. I mean, you're doing a lot of work, because you're going to be, for each distinct encounter area, if you're following that pattern, which I think is why a lot of most OSR supplements things you see don't follow that pattern. They just put like, here's 12 things you might encounter, bam, kind of thing. And I think for the same, because it's just, you got like 12 tables that you have to update for each distinct encounter area, because you got flyers, special, humanoids, animals, insects, and I don't need that much. And I think that seems to be the kind of conclusion, at least from stuff I see, that people, that kind of specificity and granularity, not only those two things, but just the sheer number of critters that you could run into is probably not that much. You go into a given area of woods, you're not seeing that many new different things. I mean, at least on a macro level. Sure, if you zoom in enough and you look at all the different sorts of insects, for example, yeah, you find that. But just in terms of what's interesting adventure wise, that you're really interested in, they got some deer or antelope or whatever. You've got fox, wolf, badger. You got a handful of things for these different ones. And so I feel like, for me anyway, for me, that having these kind of breakouts, and again, flexible, you can make these as long or as short as you want. So if you want to have a bunch of common stuff because it's important to you for verisimilitude or whatnot, and you want to have monarch butterflies and dragonflies and the ladybugs, and you want to have all gray squirrels, black squirrels, mongoose, you want to really load up on it. Hey, go to town, load it up as far as you want. I'm not making any judgments as to how many of each thing to have in each table, but on the other hand, if you just want to have 4 things because the rest is kind of window dressing, unless the monarch butterflies are important for something, then probably don't really need to have it as an encounter. Then just have 4 things. Hopefully that makes some kind of sense. Ty says, give the players that chart and randomly let one player roll, choose from the list. I don't know if for an encounter, I don't know if I choose from the list. I suppose that'd be interesting. That might be, that way, what, Ty, that I think that'll make a really good ranger style ability. That either you roll, it'd be interesting, right? So that'd be cool. That'd be kind of cool. So like on a hunt, if you're a ranger or some kind of whatever you want to call them, ranger, some kind of wildernessy person doing some kind of action, and it pertains to creatures, that with anyone else that does it, you would roll to see maybe which column you're in, maybe, and then you would just roll it out normally. But then with that class, either they could pick the column. That'd be kind of cool. So you have 2 dice, right? Say you roll whatever dice you're using, and so it gives you basically a row and a column. These would be the columns, and the rows would be whatever you get. So assuming we have 8, say D8s of these, or maybe D6 is easier, you get 4 and 3. You'd be in rare, and then you'd be down here, and that would just be for a regular player. That would just be it. For a ranger, they could mix and match, so they could go like, I actually want to go to 3, 4 instead and find this. But they could kind of have a choice. That'd be kind of cool. What I was saying for stuff like butterflies and squirrels. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think for me, I wouldn't put those on my wandering encounter list. Maybe I would I might have something like just call it small game. And that's your squirrels, chipmunks, I don't know, groundhogs, stuff like that. Here's a Homebrew says, the problem with random encounter tables is theoretically, if you pass through the same hex frequently, it could be packed with thousands of creatures and dozens of layers. It would be chaos. Well, I wouldn't use this for layers. I would choose my layers. I would roll once for a layer, and that would be the layer that was in here. And then a lot of creatures, they move on, and so there are 2 things, right? Cool. So it's the populations of the hex. It's just what are you seeing at the time you're coming through, or nothing. And then, so there are a couple of factors. I guess we can break it down. There are a couple of factors. One is, how often are you rolling the dice? Once per day, once per travel period, once per what? So that's going to be a determinant of how populous it feels. And that's kind of why I have this activity thing here, is you could use this to kind of gauge how busy is it. Is this a woods where there's just tons of stuff going all the time? I was just diving on reefs, and there's just tons of fish everywhere. It's beautiful. It's great. But you might go somewhere else. Like if I go diving into if I were to fall into the, I guess the Long Island Sound, might not see as much, or at least not in that kind of small area. But I think keeping in mind that a lot of creatures move around. So say we're doing a 6 mile hex, that's 30 some odd square miles, but getting out of getting out of that hex into a neighboring area is only a couple of miles, 6 miles max, depending on where you are in the hex, right? So creatures are moving around. So just because you encounter deer one day and then a bear the next day doesn't mean that those deer and bear and then wolf the day after that doesn't mean they all in that hex all the time. Maybe only one of those creatures lairs there. Maybe none of those creatures lair there. They're all just moving about, and you can't say unless you're magically tagging them like you're on a nature program that this is the same individual. So if I saw a wolf one day and I see a wolf the other day, doesn't mean there are two wolves in the hex. It could be the same wolf. It could be two wolves, but we don't know the overall population. So I don't necessarily think that's a problem because we're not suggesting, I think, when you're rolling a wandering creature that those creatures are in that space all the time. It's a little bit different than if you were, because it's not like stocking dungeon rooms in that sense where that creature's there. And if we just kept stocking every time we came by, we threw another creature in that room that just sat there. This is all about sort of what is in the greater area that might be moving in at the same time. Same time, and they have to be the same time and space as the party is. I do think that if you're rolling often and there's a high probability you're going to see something, that it's going to feel very busy. Yeah, but that might be your intention. Like when you go on safari and you're in, I don't know, you're in the savannah. It seems, depending on the season, I guess, and where you are, it could feel really busy because it is really busy. Uh, and maybe in ye old fantasy times where you have places that are really wild, that it should feel busy like that, because it's not like modern days where people complain there are tons of deer, but you can sit somewhere and not see deer for a long time. Whereas maybe back in the day when people said there were tons of whatever, it meant that there literally were lots and lots of them, not just that they were kind of a pain in the butt kind of thing. But I don't think that's a huge issue. Obviously depending on how you're doing your, how are you doing your stocking, how are you stocking, not stalking, how you're doing your stocking rules, and there are lots of variables at work. But I tend to think that's not a problem. But you do want to keep in mind whatever you feel like your environment is. Do you want to feel like what a desert probably feels like, or most deserts, where you feel like you're all alone, or the open ocean, right? That you're not on a reef, you're not in a a fishing grounds. You're just kind of floating out there in the middle of the Pacific. It's going to feel very quiet and empty. Is that the feeling you want? Then modify how often you're rolling, and you can also modify what you're seeing to show that too. If you're in a situation in which you're in the open ocean, let's say, then maybe common stuff would be like nothing, like, I don't know, algae, if you wanted to, or it could be something else. Like you could, I would, how would you feel if you wanted to have it be something not even like that? Like you wanted to put some kind of weather phenomenon. I mean, that's the other thing, right? What you could almost call this occurrences, or, encounters, if you wanted to broaden and say, I don't even just want to have creatures. So what's common in the open ocean is not even creatures at all. It's stuff like, I don't know, a water spout, a rogue wave, a dead calm, something like that. Ty likes the algae encounter. Then only when you get to uncommon and rare do you get actual fish. And then maybe in rare you see a whale or some school of sharks or something like that. So you can really modify and switch things around however you like. I'll put the dot grid in here, and then we can maybe go back to seeing what like the Mirkwood North has on the. I mean, like I said, at this part, I don't think the encounter part, I don't think it's particularly. No, that shouldn't be there. What's that? What arrow is that? No, that shouldn't be an inhabitants. And this shouldn't be under example. Oh, it's not. I see. I got to keep. One thing I find, I'm not seems to kind of work at the beat of its own drum a bit. Yeah, so I got all these rows. I'm gonna copy all these rows of dots that I made. Copy them. I'm gonna make a new layer. Let's see. Oh wait, I gotta. All right, let me not get sidetracked here, but let me just fix that. I need a new layer, which I could put something. A new layer is where? Add layer. Yeah, okay, we're gonna put it up there. I guess that's okay. So we'll call this counters. Those they did not put in counters, but now I'm gonna put you in counters. Okay. Now I can do this. So I can I don't know what that noise is outside, but it sounds like very Star Warsy for some reason. Okay. All right. I should probably adjust that spacing. You know what? Can I do this? Can I group you guys together? I can. To dot grid. Now I can move you guys a little bit. Maybe move you. Okay. Something like that. And I'll have to put some headers. And I still have some space I can put what. All right, so let's go into our example stuff. I'm going to have to do some cleanup momentarily, but I wish there was a way to always keep that, kind of lock it at the top. Oh, now we see. I need a text styles. We're going to go with example. So we've been working Mirkwood North. And I don't remember really much that's in Mirkwood, to be honest, besides the spiders. Presumably there's got to be game in there, right? It's not just spiders. Well, maybe I'll put them since they're kind of a predator. I always think of, I don't know whether it's right or wrong. I think of, the food pyramid, right? So I want to put your, it's some mercs, a lot of wood. Yeah, definitely. So I try to make the prey as they should be more common than the predators. However, these guys are unnatural. So maybe you could say, well, they actually are the most common thing because maybe they've exhausted everything else. So I'd totally be willing to make exceptions for different things. So, I'll put small game in here. I think that's sufficient. I don't know. I don't know about you. You guys can obviously tell me if you think in your games, if you like having specificity of, raccoon, raccoon, squirrel, chipmunk. Do you like having those? I mean, obviously, depending on where your game is located, you might have some different ones. Badgers, porcupines. I'm all thinking North American ones because, well, that's where I'm from. But whatever. But I don't. To me, I don't know if it's usually worth it to spell all of them out. Whereas I can just think of small game, and then in the moment I can think of, well, what is it? What is that small game exactly? I'm not going to worry about it. And then over on yonder, I'm going to call this So orc raiding parties. We know, and obviously I don't need to, I can do whatever I want here, but we've been working on kind of Mirkwood, sort of hobbits. Also, we could sort of fill in what we know from Lord of the Rings. I guess I don't have to. But anyway, we'll just assume that from Dol Guldur or parts, orcs it's building up, he's building up his armies, he's building up his forces, and that every once in a while you might run into orc raiding parties. There's not enough of them yet, but they're starting to kind of send them out, maybe harass the elves, harass others. Ty says they definitely have a chart for them. I think them being small game, but they only use it occasionally. Yeah, it doesn't come up super much because it's not that much outside of the sort of hunting things, or if you were dealing with what's the word I'm looking for? You want some atmosphere. It's not. No one's going to get excited to encounter a raccoon. I mean, in real life, you might. I get excited when I see a raccoon, but as some kind of seasoned or even unseasoned, maybe I think I'm seasoned adventurer, it's not getting me excited. And I think we want to tend to try to. I only want to stick to the interesting stuff. Like I don't need to, unless it's important. I don't need to say identify the grass. Like it's there, it's grass. If it says something special, other than that, I'm fine for people just to assume it's the kind of their imagination of whatever grass is. You say grass and what you're picturing in your brain, good enough. If it is vastly different than that, then I want to do it. But that's kind of special, and that sort of that specialness, the fact that it warrants your attention in some way, is what I want to call out to. So unless the point of the place is that it's only has small game and that's interesting or weird or unusual, then probably not. Like I'm not going to call out, and if it's just a snail, not a giant snail, not a flail snail, not some kind of wild poisonous snail, not a snail, a racing snail, if it's just like it's a snail or it's a slug, doesn't warrant being on the list. But I think it is nice, especially if you're using hunting or other things where that you might want to play with that. Then it's good. Let's okay. So in something like Lord of the Rings, they don't really talk about a bunch of stuff, or even The Hobbit. So rare. What would be a rare thing? Maybe you got a Nazgul, which would be nasty and rare. I don't think Sauron himself is running out of Dol Guldur to come visit it, but maybe you got a Nazgul in spirit form in some way flying through. So that would definitely be on the rare side. In this case, we just have one, right? So assuming we've just got one. Something else that might be actually, we'll put something rare. We'll put a wood elf. What's a good? What would these be? Wood elf patrol. On the good side, right? It doesn't have to be bad stuff. In fact, it shouldn't all be bad stuff. That's just awful, even in a place like Mirkwood. So it's possible you could run into a wood elf patrol. Are there wood elves here normally? No, but we are next to Mirkwood South, so they might have wandered in here. They might be here on their own mission, so you can throw them in here. Ian says, I think raccoon sitting is good for that 2 on the 1 and 6 situation where it was almost an encounter. There's a moment of tension when something is shifting in the bushes, and then it turns out it's something non-threatening, but maybe foreshadowing a possible encounter, like the raccoon was running from something. Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, you can definitely use that stuff, though. I think you can even use that without having to roll up raccoon. I think you could just roll up an encounter, because remember, you're using encounter distance, especially in the wilderness. You could potentially have a long distance, could be a pretty far distance away, and I like to even extend those distances so that if you get something where it is far away, you could just do totally what you did, which is have the rustling in the bushes, then the thing runs out, but that it runs past the party and it seems fearful, whatnot, and then you can follow up with if you want to give it another atmospheric clue, like there's a roar or there's a cold wind or a hot wind or some other weirdness or not. So yeah, there's definitely obviously different ways to kind of skin the cat on that. Different ways to chase the raccoon on that one. Yeah, I just like to use distance. So I just fold that into distance. So Ian says maybe the encounter table has 2 tiers for each entry: evidence versus encounter. You could totally do that. I tend to look at the distance, kind of distance or time. Right? It's far away. Is it far away because it's and this and I don't. I mean, you could fold that into a table thing too. But I just think about, well, how far away is it? Is it coming or going? And I'll just kind of riff on whatever I think the context is in the moment. And for me, I'm okay just kind of playing that out. Is it far because it passed through already and it's just been a while? Is it far because it's far away but it's coming closer? In which case, whatever evidence you're getting from it is more the sensory stuff because it hasn't gotten here yet. So you're hearing footsteps, you're smelling, maybe you're downwind and you're smelling it, or like Ian just mentioned, wildlife is trying to escape, or did it already pass through here? In which case, prints, scat, whatever, traces of its presence, kind of thing. Ian says they like this in combination with particularly aggressive encounter rolls, so the party gets evidence of encounters before they happen. Yep. And that's why, and remember, we can also fold this in with these discoveries. I think on one of the ones I had on a stream the other day, it was one of these discoveries was a kill site. So that was the wolves. So we had wolf sign, and then one of the discoveries you can make is a kill site that can help you get to the lair if you want to. But that also obviously gives you more and more evidence of the fact that the wolves and maybe about the wolves, and depending on what that kill site looks like, could tell you, are these wolves like super nasty? Are they just regular wolves? Kind of, what is going on? Let's see. So we got small game, giant spiders, orc raiding parties. And that might be all we have. But that's okay to me. Because remember, you're making what you're going to have. Maybe I should put dice the other day. We can just do that now. Let me go into. Let me see about any dice. Okay, so here we go. So I actually had set up. I did it on my phone. Let me pull it out so I can get it on here. Where was my any dice? Because I came up with a little. Any dice is super powerful, but you kind of got to figure some things out. Do I still have my any dice? Is that here? There it is. So let me get my function that I made for. Okay, so here we go. Wait, stop. Hold on. Move things around here. Any dice is a really good resource. I highly recommend checking it out if you're ever curious or you want to see what your probabilities are for different things, and you can really customize things to match the mechanics you're trying to do. Some things are harder to do than others, and I don't pretend to be an expert. And x is less than b plus 1. I don't know if I have to put spaces in here, so I'm going to be ready for errors if they come. And I'll run through what I'm doing in a second. Let me just get the. Oops, let me just get the thing written out, and then I'll go through it. Well, first, let me make sure it works. Oops, there we go. Now we can do output bracket check 2d6 between 2 and 6. All right, drum roll, please, that I got this to work. Boom. There we go. All right, so let me oh, this is just water for the working man. Let me I'll go through this function quickly. So any dice has its own mechanics, not word, own kind of language and notation for how they do things. So what I'm saying here is I'm saying, hey, check this, which is a sequence, in this case 2d6, and I'm looking for, is the result of that some number between 2 and 6. And so here's the form. So I put the formula in. So I'm getting a number, which means I'm telling it from X to get a number. So it's gonna take this sequence, which would be all the potential values of a 2d6, and it's gonna pull a rando or go through, and it's because it's going to be doing the probability. So that number, is it between 2 and 6? So in this case, I want, and this is just kind of relatively simple kind of math function, right? I subtract 1 from the both values, or I subtract 1 from the lower value and I add 1 of the higher value because I want to include those numbers. So when I say between 2 and 6, I mean between 2 and 6 and not if it's greater than 3. I could have used greater equals in there, but I couldn't remember whether that worked or not. So I just did that. So I just did greater than. So basically, is it greater than 1? If it is, it's less than 7. So AKA 2 to 6. If it is, give me back a 1, which is the way in any dice that you're saying that's true, right? Yes, it is. And if not, return a 0, meaning no, it's not. So then we change the output, and I format it like this so I could do different dice if I wanted to, change the numbers, kind of make it flexible for my needs. So I'm checking, rolling a 2d6 between 2 and 6 41% of the time, 41 and change, 41.5% of the time. So close to not quite 50%, but not far off. You're gonna get yes, and then we're going to get no of the other. And that just checks that. So I'm going to make a couple of these so that we can try to get a good kind of 2d6. Let's say I got common. This would be frequent. I'll change the numbers in a second. Frequent. Uncommon. And rare. So now we can kind of fiddle faddle a little bit with the numbers if we want to. So let's see, so common is that, and then I think I did 7 and 8, 9 and 10, 11 and 12. So we hit this button again, and then we can see the kind of distribution we're getting. So common encounters 41% of the time, so not quite half, but the vast majority for any one of these is going to be common. 30% chance of getting a frequent encounter, 20% chance of getting an uncommon encounter, and a little bit less than 10% chance of getting a rare encounter. Hey, Brian Smith. So I actually think these work pretty well just as is. Pretty well as is. I don't know what number I'd want to increase. So I could say uncommon 10 and 11 and then 12 for rare. And we can just put another one in here just so we can check. So we just want 2d6 equals 12. What's the chance of that? It's just 2.8%. So if we wanted to be super rare, we could have that be rare. Or you get I'm not sure. I'm not sure. How rare do we want? It's kind of like how rare do you want rare to be? How rare do you want rare to be? But I think I just kind of like that because it's kind of 8% chance. Not a lot, but it's a little bit more than it's so 5% chance. So it's between, let's say if you had it on a D20, if you just had it on the 1, that would be 5%. If you had it on the 1 and 2, that'd be 10%. So this is kind of slotting in between those two, which I think is okay. So that's what I'm going to go with. So we could switch back now to the doc. Maybe I can, let's see, how do I want to notate this? Maybe I'll move. Let me see if I take all of these, kind of move them up. Then I can do I might need to use it. Oh yeah, that is not gonna work. I don't like that dash at all. And plus, this is going to be in the wrong layer, isn't it? Oh no, it's there in the heavens. That's good. All right, you know what? I'm not gonna. Let me not fret on that quite yet, but I'll definitely have to change that. That does not work. Not legible. Medium rare, please. Absolutely. Like a little pink in the center. 7 to 8. Or, I could just write it out. I don't have to be a savage. Reset these a bit. Nine to 10. And then, oops. $11, $12. Something like that. Roll 2d6. Something like that. So, you get 2d6, we get 2 to 6, a little bit less than 50%. You get common stuff, frequent's about 30%. Uncommon, what did we say it was? 20%? Yep. And then a little bit less than 10%. So you definitely get a drop off pretty significantly from uncommon to rare. So I guess one thing we could look at, let me go back here. So one thing, just out of curiosity, if I up that to 11, and then I get rid of this. Actually, I didn't need to do that. If I could just say, oops, 2d6 is equal to 12, let's say. How does that change it? So that makes it almost only a 5% drop. What if I did something like that? What is... output 2d6 equals 12. Named. How would this, what does this look like? Out of curiosity. Oh, I kind of like that too, though. That's kind of nifty also. We are in the math weeds. A bit. All right, let me see. But now what happens? Because I'd something else I want to check. What's the difference? 38, 30, 19. I just want to add, see how this feels as a because I do like the idea of having kind of something really nasty happens or something really good happens. So you get 2% chance on either of those. Then I wonder then if this should just be, what is just C? What's 10? That drops it down to 8. It's not enough, I don't think. I don't think that's enough. Yeah, you kind of go 40. I guess actually I kind of like that because you get 40, 30, 20 essentially, and then rare. So yeah, I'm gonna have to do a little up dotting in my file here because I kind of like that. I like having like there's a really cool encounter and then there's something really nasty. But now but the only thing is this kind of fitted nicely, and I don't know if I have room. A room. That's gonna cause me some issues potentially. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe I'll keep this as is, and then you can fill up, and that kind of can go in the rare bit, and that can kind of maybe that's the better way because especially for a situation like this where we're going in which we are. Oh, it's the wrong. Sorry. You just have all those in there. So, so it's something like Gandalf, and then we could also have Radagast. What happened? Did he not? No, it's not what I wanted to do. No, why are you? No, hold on a minute. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. Radagast. And then we could have something in here. And then we could have another one of these. Animal ally. Whoops. Oh, I called them Randigast. So kind of Radagast is pretty cool. So you can get something like this. I mean, this is just building random encounters. I'm just kind of blobby-blying over building of random encounters. You can do this, however you'd like, essentially. Yeah, yep. Brian Smith asked if I was using Lord of the Rings kind of as a lorem ipsum. Yep, pretty much just to build an example. I think having the example actually helps. I think it's helped me, and it probably helps other folks as well, just kind of visualize what we're doing. But now it's just kind of getting in the weeds of generating a bunch of encounters, which, while being fun, isn't necessarily helpful. So we got some stuff like that. And like I said, we could put in weather things. We could put in, if there was mists or whatever else, maybe little pools, little ponds that kind of come and go, maybe some little wetlands, little things like that. We could do that too. You could put sensory stuff if you want in there also. If you want to make it really atmospheric, right? But you don't want to have a lot of stuff like creatures you're encountering. Maybe there's like a piercing a whale on the wind, or whale, W-A-I-L, not a flying whale, though that would be cool too. Smells, evidence of, we could put in something like, maybe we want to have here a withered cocoon. We don't know what's in it. Animal, vegetable, mineral. We know the spiders have been here. Massive web. Could be in the common. Hey, Magnus. Playing, was that the Crusader Kings 3? I need to get back into playing some Crusader Kings. That was one of the things I wanted to stream forever. I wanted to start a Crusader Kings game and then stream it. So I might need to go back and through that. Brian asked if I've delved into the Peter Pan TTRPG. I have not, Brian Smith, but you recommend it, you call it the gold standard for hex crawl layout. Wow. Well, I guess I will have to check it out. No, I don't think I'd even heard of Peter Pan tabletop, but now I will, because now I must. So cool. I will definitely look for that. But no, I was not aware of that before. I'm just doing a little cleanup here. Group those together. Call it. Group those together. Call it. Ian, like the Neverland selling book. Okay. Oh, so it's all by the same guy, same person, or persons. It's cool. I haven't looked at that one either, but I know people have spoke of it very highly. So this is kind of where we're looking at here, and I do have some space to do more. And I obviously have I gave myself very generous borders, which I don't really need necessarily, but that's kind of where we're at. So we've got your hex at the top. We got all the main things about it. It's kind of good to probably have some notes and resources, or things like that. Have a section for there. And then you've got your encounters. Fill these up as much or as little as you want. Are they setting? Are these setting books? Are they just totally generic, or Ian said he didn't know what system, but I'll definitely check it out. But cool. I think I feel pretty good about this, and I'll add some notes and some other things. I'll probably flesh this out a little bit. Just maybe put some little notes maybe under here, kind of similar to that. Throw them under there. And then we'll see. Maybe this will be good. Maybe this will just be okay for a first run. I mean, I'm not a professional super designy graphic designer. I'm just kind of trying. This is very, very much a non-artsy version. I could probably find some things to sort of frou it up a little bit, but it's really more about just being usable. Ian says it's technically 5e, but lots of OSR themes and expectations display. Okay, that's cool. Das is cool. Let me see. Am I thinking what else? What else do people feel like they need? What do people feel like they what information? Is there any other information that people are looking for kind of at a glance? I'm just going to try to do something here. I'm not very good at the kind of curves. I mean, I'm okay. Oh, you know, I goofed. But what do people feel like, especially if it's something that is not maybe what is not normally you don't normally see included, that you feel like could use some inclusion? Is there any reference or something you wish was included more that's not? There we go. That actually doesn't look too bad, does it? So maybe I need to. Paths, roads. I kind of feel like those would be in here. You know, because like a game trail, I feel like those would sort of slot into just signs, discoveries, potentially secrets, I suppose. That's what I would tend to put it. If there's, the old East Road runs through it, that would be the obvious thing, right? If you're leaving Bree or you're on that kind of thing, the road traveling from Bree to Elrond, the road is super obvious. So that would be at least for some aspects. So that would kind of be here. And if it was more hidden away, maybe it'd be here. Brian says, table of evocative keywords. Ah, yes, that's a good one. Yep, descriptors. I actually had that in my brain and I forgot about it. So that actually is very good. I will put a thing. Let me see. Let me just group some of these other things up. Yeah, I don't know if I need a table for it. I think I just want to give you a space to write in the keywords. Write in the keywords that you want. I think that's something that you should be thoughtful about. I mean, you could roll on tables to come up with them, but I don't know that you need to roll on a table, like have a table in the hex. I think whatever you decide through whatever means are those things, you should probably, write them down. Oops. Something like that. I'll have to, maybe I'll give some other space because I got plenty of space. Let's see. Really, and Hamilton's just doesn't have my dot grid. Where's the dots? No, it doesn't. Oh, that's that dot grid. Where's the other dot grid? Where did you go? Oh, I called you encounters. Well, see, that's what I get for coming up with multiple things. There we go. Oh, sorry, example. I'm going to have to slide you down afterwards. Maybe I'll put those at the very bottom. Sorry, pals. There, I can move you in. Oh, wait a minute. That means that you... Nope, you're not supposed to be there. You're supposed to be in example. And, yep, you're also supposed to be... You are in the example. Oh, massive web. Yeah. Okay. There, I will move this down a bit, and then we're good. All right, folks. Well, coming along nicely, I think, for a first spot. I'll have to make some room at the top for like an actual header and whatnot, but I think it's looking good. Hopefully people find useful. This will find its way into different things sooner rather than later. Everyone if you're in here live or you end up watching this day, have a great weekend. Long weekend for me, so no stream on Monday we'll be celebrating Labor Day here in the Les États-Unis. Anyway, no matter when you end up watching, listen to this. Have a great time, great day, night, whenever that happens to be. Game on, everybody, and I'll talk to you later. Bye now.